I, 35F, recently made the decision to completely remove my brother Mark, 30M, and sister Penelope, 25F, from my will. I know this sounds harsh, but there's a long history here that I need to explain. My relationship with my siblings has been strained for as long as I can remember. Growing up, I was always treated like an outsider in my own family by my siblings. Mark and Penelope were like two peas in a pod. They did everything together and actively excluded me from their lives. Our age gaps weren't even that big, but they made it feel like I was from a different planet entirely. When we were kids, they would lock their bedroom doors if they were playing together. If I tried to join them watching TV in the living room, they would immediately get up and leave. At mealtimes, they would sit together and turn their chairs slightly away from me, having their own private conversations and ignoring anything I said. If I tried to contribute to their conversation, they would either act like they couldn't hear me or give one-word responses before continuing their chat. Our parents noticed this behavior and tried to intervene multiple times. They would force Mark and Penelope to include me in activities or family game nights. But these forced interactions only made things worse. My siblings would participate with obvious reluctance, rushing through whatever we were doing, and then go back to excluding me as soon as our parents weren't watching. School was even worse. We went to the same school, but Mark and Penelope would pretend they didn't know me if we passed in the hallways. If their friends asked if I was their sister, they would say things like "unfortunately" or "we don't really know her." During my high school graduation, they showed up late, sat in the back, and left immediately after the ceremony without even saying congratulations. I tried everything to build a relationship with them. I bought them thoughtful birthday gifts, helped them with homework when they struggled, and even covered for them a few times when they broke our parents' rules. Nothing made a difference. Mark would sometimes acknowledge my existence with a grunt or nod, but Penelope would literally walk out of rooms when I entered. The situation got worse when they both moved across the country for college. Mark went first, and Penelope followed him 2 years later to the same city. Since then, our only contact has been during forced family events or when they needed something. In the last 12 years, I can count on one hand the number of times they've initiated contact with me. When our grandmother got sick 5 years ago, I was the one who helped take care of her. I visited her regularly, managed her medications, and took her to doctor's appointments. Mark and Penelope didn't visit once during her 6-month illness. They didn't even call her on her last birthday. Yet when she passed away and left all 3 of us equal shares in her will, they showed up for the reading without any shame. They took their inheritance and left without even staying for the memorial service. Last month, I received some worrying medical news. I have a condition that, while not immediately life-threatening, is serious enough that I need to start planning for the future. This prompted me to review my financial situation and update my will. Over the years, I've done well for myself in the tech industry. I own my house outright, have a good amount in savings and investments, and possess some valuable family heirlooms that our grandmother specifically left to me. At first, I considered splitting everything equally between Mark and Penelope, just to keep the peace. But then I started thinking about how they've treated me my entire life. They've never shown any interest in being my siblings except when money was involved. They didn't care about our grandmother until they got her money. They haven't bothered to maintain any kind of relationship with me despite my repeated attempts over the years. So I made the decision to remove them from my will entirely. I've left everything to our parents, with detailed instructions about how each asset should be handled. I've also written a letter explaining my decision, which is to be opened only after my death. The letter documents their years of emotional neglect and complete disregard for our sibling relationship. Yesterday, our cousin Beth somehow found out about my will update, probably through someone at the lawyer's office who knows her. She called me and said I was being too harsh. According to her, I should leave them at least something small to avoid causing family drama after I'm gone. She insisted that they're still my siblings, regardless of how they've behaved. But here's the thing, I honestly don't care about what drama happens after I'm gone. They never treated me like a sister when I was alive, so why should they benefit from my death? I worked hard for everything I have. They chose to exclude me from their lives for over 3 decades. Now I'm just making it official on paper. Our parents don't know about the will changes yet. They've always tried to maintain peace in the family, and I know this would upset them. But I feel like I'm finally standing up for myself after years of accepting their treatment. Am I wrong for making this decision? Note, I was also diagnosed with my condition a year ago, but my siblings don't know because they never check up on me. Update 1: I never expected things to blow up so quickly, but here we are. After Beth told Mark and Penelope about the changes to my will, all hell broke loose in our family. It's amazing how 2 people who spent decades pretending I didn't exist suddenly found my phone number and remembered how to use it. The barrage of messages started last Thursday. My phone was flooded with angry texts from both of them. Mark called me 17 times in one day, leaving increasingly hostile voicemails. His messages ranged from calling me selfish and manipulative to accusing me of trying to divide the family. The irony of him talking about family division after years of excluding me wasn't lost on me. Penelope took a different approach. She started a smear campaign in the family, contacting every relative she could reach. According to her, I was mentally unstable and had been making up stories about being excluded my whole life. She told everyone that I was the problem child who pushed them away by being difficult and antisocial. She even dug up old incidents from our childhood and twisted them to make herself look like the victim. For example, she told everyone about the time I didn't attend her high school graduation. What she conveniently left out was that she had specifically told our parents not to bring me because she didn't want me there. She also shared a story about how I ruined her 16th birthday by not showing up, when in reality, I had planned a surprise party that she and Mark deliberately didn't attend after finding out I organized it. The situation escalated when they involved our parents. They called Mom and Dad separately, crying about how I was trying to tear the family apart. Mom called me yesterday, clearly upset and confused. She said she had no idea things were so bad between us and asked why I never told them the full extent of the estrangement. I had to remind her about all the times she and Dad tried to intervene when we were younger. She claimed she thought we had grown out of it as adults, despite the obvious signs that nothing had changed. But Mark took things to a whole new level. He actually contacted my doctor's office, pretending to be concerned about my mental state. He tried to get information about my medical condition by claiming he was my emergency contact and that our parents were worried about my decision-making abilities. Thank goodness for HIPAA and my doctor's strict privacy policies, they refused to disclose any information. But his attempt to violate my medical privacy shows just how far he's willing to go. Penelope wasn't far behind in crossing lines. She started spreading rumors that I'm faking my medical condition for attention. Several relatives called me asking if I was really sick or just making things up for sympathy. One aunt even sent me a lengthy email saying I should be ashamed for lying about a serious illness just to punish my siblings. I ended up having to send copies of my medical records to our parents just to prove I wasn't making everything up. The most surprising development came from Beth. She called me yesterday to apologize. When she first informed Mark and Penelope about the will changes, their immediate reaction wasn't concern about my health or wanting to make amends. Instead, they started calculating what they might lose financially and discussing how they could challenge the will. Beth said watching their reaction made her understand exactly why I made my decision. Our parents are caught in the middle of all this. Dad suggested family counseling, thinking it might help us work through our issues. But I declined. There's no point in forcing a relationship with people who only acknowledge my existence when they stand to gain something. They've shown their true colors yet again. They don't care about me as their sister, they only care about what they might not inherit. The whole situation has become so toxic that some relatives have taken sides. Most of the younger cousins who witnessed their behavior growing up are supporting my decision. The older generation, who only saw the perfect image Mark and Penelope projected at family gatherings, think I'm being vindictive. I'm standing firm on my decision. If anything, their reaction to the news has only confirmed that I made the right choice. They still don't see me as their sister, just a source of potential inheritance. Their behavior now mirrors exactly how they acted when our grandmother passed away, only showing up when money is involved. For now, I've blocked both of them on my phone and social media. Any communication can go through my lawyer. I don't need their added stress while dealing with my health issues. Some relatives say I'll regret this decision when I'm older, but I think I'll regret it more if I back down now after finally standing up for myself. Update 2. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, a whole new layer of deception came to light. Last week, I received a call from Sarah, an old family friend who used to work at the law firm that handled our grandmother's estate. What she revealed made everything suddenly make sense. Sarah told me that during our grandmother's illness, Mark and Penelope made one secret visit to her, something I never knew about because I was out of town that weekend for work. But they didn't visit because they cared about her condition. Instead, they tried to convince our grandmother that I had been stealing money from her accounts and shouldn't be trusted with any inheritance. Sarah kept detailed records from that time because the whole situation seemed suspicious to her. She showed me emails between Mark and Penelope discussing their plan. They had apparently been plotting this for months, waiting for the right moment when I wouldn't be around. In the emails, they talked about how they needed to secure their future and make sure she doesn't get anything because she doesn't deserve it. Their plan failed because our grandmother didn't believe them. She had been keeping her own detailed records of all her finances, and knew exactly who had been helping her and who hadn't. She actually added a note to her will after their visit, specifically stating that her decisions were made of sound mind and with full knowledge of her assets. But that's not even the worst part. Sarah also revealed why Mark and Penelope suddenly moved across the country all those years ago. I always thought it was just for college, but there was a calculated reason behind it. They had discovered information about a trust fund our parents had set up for all three of us. The trust had a specific condition: it would be split equally between us only if all three siblings lived within the same state for at least 5 years after turning 25. By moving away, they ensured I could never access my share of the trust. The money would eventually be split between just the two of them. They had been playing the long game all along, planning their moves years in advance to manipulate the situation in their favor. When I confronted our parents about the trust fund, they were completely blindsided. They had created it with good intentions, hoping it would encourage us to stay close as a family. Mom broke down crying when she realized how Mark and Penelope had twisted their well-meaning gesture into something manipulative. Dad hasn't spoken to either of them since finding out about this scheme. The most ridiculous part of this whole situation? The trust fund wasn't even that substantial. They gave up having any relationship with their sister over an amount of money that wouldn't have made a significant difference in any of our lives. Our parents are now working with their lawyers to change the terms of the trust, but the damage to our family relationships is already done. Sarah apologized for not coming forward sooner, but said she felt conflicted about getting involved in family matters. She only decided to tell me after hearing through mutual friends about my current situation and how Mark and Penelope were trying to paint me as mentally unstable. I feel vindicated but also deeply saddened. All these years, I thought they just didn't like me for some unknown reason. Now I know they were actively working to harm me financially while pretending to be just distant siblings. It makes my decision about the will feel even more justified. Some relatives have suggested I use this information to publicly expose Mark and Penelope, but I'm not going to stoop to their level. I've shared the evidence with our parents and a few key family members who needed to know the truth. Everyone else can believe what they want to believe. Their actions have shown who they really are, not just absent siblings, but actively malicious people who try to financially harm their own sister. The irony is that their greed and manipulation have now cost them more than they ever stood to gain. Update 3: A lot has happened since my last update, and I felt I should share one final time. The situation with my siblings finally reached its breaking point when our parents confronted Mark and Penelope about everything: the trust fund manipulation, their attempt to change our grandmother's will, and their decades of treating me like I didn't exist. Their response was shocking but somehow not surprising. Instead of showing any remorse, they tried to blame our parents. According to them, Mom and Dad always favored me growing up. They claimed I got better grades, more attention, and more opportunities. In their twisted version of events, moving away and cutting me out was their only option to escape living in my shadow. Mark went on a long rant about how I was the perfect child who made them look bad, while Penelope cried about how our parents never supported her dreams like they supported mine. They conveniently forgot all the times our parents attended their events while missing mine because they couldn't be in two places at once. The situation took an ugly turn when they brought in a lawyer. I received formal letters threatening to contest my will if anything happened to me. Their lawyer tried to argue that my medical condition makes me mentally unfit to make decisions about my assets. They even tried to get my medical records through legal channels to prove their point. This aggressive legal approach backfired spectacularly. Our parents, who had been trying to remain neutral, finally had enough. They updated their own will, significantly reducing Mark and Penelope's inheritance and adding conditions about family reconciliation. When Mark and Penelope found out, they showed their true colors by harassing our parents with angry calls and threatening messages. The extended family has largely sided with me after seeing their behavior. Even our aunt, who initially accused me of faking my illness, called to apologize after witnessing their recent actions. Several cousins have cut contact with them after learning about their schemes. My medical treatment is progressing well, and I've built a strong support system of friends who actually care about me. Our parents now spend holidays at my house instead of traveling to visit Mark and Penelope. Mom still gets emotional sometimes about how everything turned out, but she understands why things had to change. I've blocked both siblings on every platform and instructed my lawyer to handle any future communication. My will remains unchanged, they get nothing. Their latest actions have only confirmed that I made the right decision. They've shown no concern for my health, no remorse for their past actions, and no desire to repair our relationship unless money is involved. Sometimes the hardest part of moving forward is accepting that some relationships can't be fixed. Mark and Penelope made their choices long ago, and now they're facing the consequences. I'm at peace with my decision and focused on my health and the people who actually want to be part of my life. This will be my final update on this situation. Thank you to everyone who supported me through this journey. It's been a difficult few months, but I'm in a better place now, surrounded by people who genuinely care about me rather than what they can get from me.